This place here is Castle Wars. It's one of RuneScape's most competitive minigames, and at one point it had a large and dedicated player base, but over the last 2 years something very nefarious has killed the community here. See, a group of players so bad at Castle Wars has come together to sabotage the minigame in any way possible. To give you an idea, the ringleader wakes up at 4 AM his time and typically spends 15 hours a day waiting in the lobby to crash games, and he's been at this for over a decade. But in the last 2 years something has changed. The creation of illegal plugins and the formation of their clan has effectively killed Castle Wars, and with it dead they've set their sights on Soul Wars. In fact, it's got so bad that Jagexs has even stepped in to prevent this, but as you'll come to understand, the problem needs a lot more work. By the end of today's video, you will completely understand the phenomenon of sabotaging, what's been done about it, and how the community thinks Jagexs can fix it, because like your hair, we don't want it to go away. But lucky for us, the sponsor of today's video is Cwars, whom I will now briefly thank. Listen fellas, you play RuneScape, we're getting up there in age, it's okay. But did you know 2 out of 3 guys will experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time they're 35? You'll go from this to this. But with Cwars, it doesn't have to. The best way to prevent it is by doing something about it while you still have hair left. Treatments typically take 4 to 6 months to start working, but the problem is you could lose your hair in 4 to 6 months. That's why it's important to start using Cwars sooner rather than later. Now, there's only 2 hair loss medications approved by the FDA. You may have tried one before, but definitely not at the price Cwars is offering it. They're essentially offering a brand name product at a generic version price. You get all the benefits of great customer service at a no-frills discount. They're able to do this because their customer base is massive. Thousands of men trust Cwars to keep their hair looking great. So if you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to cwars.com/crumb or click the link in the description. You'll receive 50% off your first order. That's keeps.com/crumb. A big thank you to Cwars for sponsoring this video. So, sabotaging in Castle Wars has been happening since the inception of the minigame. There's what I would call traditional methods of sabotaging. These are the ones that have been around since Castle Wars was first conceived. They rely on exploiting the core game mechanics. And then there's the modern methods which have been developed in the last 2 years. These are the advantages that third-party illegal plugins provide. Before we get into the history of sabotaging, it's important for us to understand how they're doing it. So there's 3, but really only 2 traditional tactics. Those are alts, barricade hiding, and flag holding. Check out this meme on Reddit. It paints the perfect picture of what's happening with alternate accounts. You join a game, but 75% of your team is AFK, and they're combat level 3, they're fresh off Tutorial Island. But your opponent's team is full of active max players and they're in best in slot gear. This is no coincidence. They're abusing the mechanic that both teams need to have an equal number of players for the game to start. The group sabotaging will fill the enemy team with level 3 accounts. This way they get a massive unfair advantage. Now, you gotta remember, the people that are sabotaging are really bad at Castle Wars, so that alone isn't enough. They'll employ another tactic known as barricade hiding. See, barricades are extremely important to strategic defense in Castle Wars. There's certain locations that you need to place them down at, but your team is limited to just 10 placed at any given time. So the people sabotaging will put an alt on the enemy team, they'll blow up any barricades that are already placed, and then they'll go place the max limit of 10 in some obscure location. This makes it impossible to properly defend, which adds to their unfair advantage. The third traditional method is flag holding, but it doesn't happen often because the sabotaging team is always so stacked anyways that they don't have to. But it consists of them using an alt again on your team to pick up the enemy flag, but instead of capturing it, they'll just hang on to it. And because you can't steal a flag from your own teammate, and since it's really their alt which they won't kill, it makes it impossible for you to get the flag and go and score a point. Do you remember I said our antagonist, whom I won't name because that's literally his wet dream, has spent the last decade sabotaging Castle Wars, usually around 15 hours a day? Well, in specific, 8 years of that decade was spent using these traditional tactics, and mostly on his own. That takes us back to 2011, before old school RuneScape was even a thing. He originally joined the Castle Wars community as a legitimate player, but he wasn't good. In fact, in all these years, he still hasn't gotten good. But on top of that, he's a sore loser. He can't handle to lose. And from what I've heard, he was the embodiment of a belligerent little Call of Duty rager on RuneScape. So at the time, not wanting to play babysitter, the Castle Wars community opted to ban him from their clan. And this is what pushed him over the edge all those years ago. Since then, he's been sabotaging games. His focus now is to make Castle Wars miserable for anybody that wants to play, but back then, his focus was more targeted on the Castle Wars community, specifically the players that are better than him. Even to this day, there's a handful of proficient Castle Wars players, and if they log in, he'll set his entire focus on them. He can't stand that they're better than him. Now, for that 8-year period, the Castle Wars community, although annoyed, still lived on. But today, the Castle Wars community is a memory. Few play, and if they do, it's done privately in arranged worlds among friends, not on the public theme world. It's the only way to get away from the sabotaging. And that's because in the past 2 years, the modern methods of sabotaging have broke the camel's back. So what are they? The first is the use of illegal plugins. The second, if you can even call it a method, is the formation of a clan dedicated to sabotaging. So check this out. Here's an illegal plugin at work. To the layman, it doesn't look like much, but what's happening here is it's allowing them to left-click use objects through players. See, normally, when you go to use a tinderbox or an explosive potion on a barricade, players will take precedence as the left-click use option, but these illegal plugins make the barricades take precedence. Look closely. Under normal circumstances, this person would have had to right-click on the barricade to use the potion on it, but the illegal plugin is letting him click through the people. Precise clicks are crucial in competitive Castle Wars. For years, this was part of the skill, but these plugins are taking that skill away. And there's other advantages too. Flags, the exact same thing, left click to pick them up through a group of people. On top of that, they've got features to show them when their opponent's freeze will end. It lets them time perfect barrages. It times when barricade burns end too, it shows them what tunnels are open underground, it allows them to highlight what barricades belong to what team. By the way, you won't find this plugin on RuneLite because it's against the game rules. I wouldn't recommend seeking these clients out because often they have malware attached to them. In fact, a fellow by the name Pid N Win exposed in August of 2020 that one of these clients had been bound with a keylogger and infected many members of the Castle Wars community who were attempting to cheat. It doesn't seem like much on the surface to somebody who doesn't play Castle Wars, but when you have a clan of people that get godlike clicks through the use of these plugins versus your team fumbling around in the right-click menu, it makes a gigantic difference. Combine that with all the traditional methods of sabotaging and then introduce the final method, the formation of their sabotaging clan, it has completely killed the minigame. If you've been enjoying the video, consider subscribing. I'd love to hit 100,000 so I can unlock the final tier of YouTube creator support. So it's kind of a mystery as to why people joined up with our antagonists to form their clan. They play the same time every day, employing all of these methods. What makes it devastating is simply the number of people now sabotaging. Our antagonist alone wasn't enough, but now with a group of people, it causes it to be a real problem. Someone on Reddit said that people will always seek ways to rig minigames, but the problem I have with that statement is that, unlike other minigames, Castle Wars has no real rewards besides the decorative armor. There's really nothing to gain by rigging the games. You know, there's people who will rag on PvP worlds for 16 hours a day, but at least sometimes they get a +1 or they manage to extort somebody for GP, but that doesn't happen here. Their only incentive is the grief, or as they call it, to clear players. Clearing legitimate players from the minigame by sabotaging, griefing, and harassing. I did speak to somebody from their clan. He wanted to remain anonymous because, quote, Castle Wars players are toxic. He told me that within the clan, it's an individual player's choice if they're going to abuse the client or not, and he was adamant that they get a bad rap as being the only people that are sabotaging games, when in fact, they're not. Well, my response to him was that the leader of their clan, our antagonist, is the most prolific Castle Wars sabotager out there, and they're actively supporting him. But he's not wrong. It's not just their clan abusing sabotaging techniques, and clients. There's people outside of their clan using them too. But from my observation, it's often done in retaliation to them sabotaging in the first place. Of course, I asked him why, and he confirmed everything I said before. There is no reason. Sometimes they hate somebody on the opponent's team, but that's about as far as it goes. He also told me that their clan has grown larger and less about the antagonist since the release of Soul Wars. He told me that they're now the largest and biggest clan at Soul Wars, and that's part of the reason why many people have joined up with them. And all the toxic things they're doing aside, they function like a normal clan. They have a sense of community. And so, whether they're hurting the game or not, people are there because it's fun to do that with other people they're friends with. I see them akin to people that use aimbots in shooters. You don't gain any real-life advantage for doing that, but you feel powerful and good at the game because you're able to win, something you wouldn't be able to do without cheats because you lack the skill. So what has Jagexs done about it? Well, the unfortunate truth is not much. Jagexs has officially been banning people sabotaging since as early as 2017, but these bans are far and few between. Our antagonist just got his first ban this year in late January, again after 10 years of treating this like a day job. That should give you an idea of how proactive Jagexs has been in banning these people. Now, the competitive Castle Wars community actually said that this ban made a big difference. You might not think, but these bans are actually a big deal. While they use level 3 alts to hide barricades, they still stack the minigame on their main accounts, which are usually at the very least max combat. It's a big loss to them if they get that account banned. You know, if anything, screw banning the alts, chain ban all the way up to their mains like Jagexs did to me after I made that wholesome Halloween bot. The only problem with bans as it currently is that they haven't been continued. They only banned this guy 2 times, and after that his clan funded him with a new max melee account and gave him 400 million GP to buy supplies so he could keep going. Consistent banning would make a big difference here, but unfortunately it's not happening. As it currently stands, the competitive Castle Wars community has lost all hope until more is done to stop the problem. That said, they have a few ideas about how this could be fixed. There's no clear solution, because changing the mechanics to combat it without affecting the legitimate players is basically impossible. That said, here's a few of the ideas. With respect to barricade hiding, it's commonly done on alts, so perhaps making barricades an unlock from the reward shop would slow down the sabotaging because the alts would first have to farm the tickets to unlock them. This would be a great idea if there was consistent banning, but without it, it's nearly useless. There's another solution that gets around that problem. The placing of barricades could be limited to the areas where they're most commonly placed right now by legitimate players. This would stop them from being placed in far off, hidden, obscure locations. The downside is, what if someone's running through one of those obscure locations and you want to block them with a barricade? Well, you could no longer do that. One idea for all of these suggestions is to implement them only on the theme worlds. This way, players that do want to have the classic Castle War mechanic experience can do so on any other world. Now, with respect to the stacking of teams, Castle Wars could implement, similar to Soul Wars, a green portal system where when the game starts, teams are automatically balanced off some algorithm. It's not a bad idea, but there's 2 problems with it. Number 1, they found a way to abuse it at Soul Wars. We'll talk about that shortly. And number 2, the competitive Castle Wars community really doesn't want this. They like to be able to join the team that they want to join and play with whatever friends they want to play with on that team. In fact, they told me that it would almost be like the sabotaging clan won by ruining Castle Wars even more if the green portal was implemented. So as you can see, there's really no perfect solutions. The best band-aid for now would be consistently banning people who are using illegal plugins and consistently banning people who are sabotaging. Our antagonist has lost 2 Ellies now. He's on his 3rd and he probably can't afford a 4th. I mean, this guy doesn't have a job, so it's not like he can go and buy a bunch of bonds. Now, regarding what's happening at Soul Wars, originally there wasn't a balance system there, so their clan, along with a few other clans to be fair, were constantly stacking teams upon release. If you played in early January, it was exactly like that Reddit meme for Castle Wars that we showed at the start of the video. So Jagexs, to combat this, stepped in and made it so players are assigned a team based on an algorithm that does its best to make it fairly balanced upon the game starting. The problem is that even with these RNG based teams, they're still abusing the system. This is why why it wouldn't work at Castle Wars. What they'll do is they'll decide which team is going to win, and then their clan members on the losing team will simply not attack or kill the clan members on the winning team. Instead, those players commanded to lose will just grief the real players the best they can. There's barricades at Castle Wars 2 that can be exploited with those plugins, but they're not as important as they are in Castle Wars. So that's the situation, and I've just got to show you guys this. It's so funny. Our antagonist agreed a few months ago to go on screen share with one of the Castle Wars players and prove that he's not using a third-party illegal client to cheat, but he forgot to turn the plugin off. So there's actual video evidence of him logged in using these illegal plugins. These type of plugins extend to many other aspects of the game, especially PvP, as I'm sure you guys know by now. It's a real problem, and hopefully Jagexs will step up and take more action against them soon. This is one of the niche communities that's being affected by them. The competitive Castle Wars community, as of today, has lost hope because Jagexs actually promised them that they would start taking more action, but they only ever banned this guy 2 times, and nobody else that's abusing these things has been banned for it since. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'd appreciate a like, and if you've been watching for a while, consider subscribing. I'll catch you in the next one.